It's a reminder that no matter how grand or powerful one might be, the unexpected can always happen. From the ridiculous to the, well, still pretty ridiculous, but also kind of tragic, our next story takes us to Sweden, where King Charles XIV, a man known for his military prowess and let's be honest, his questionable fashion choices, met his end not in the heat of battle but in the itchy embrace of lice. Yes, you heard that right. Lice. Those tiny blood-sucking parasites that have plagued humanity since, well, probably since we lived in caves and wore animal skins. Now, King Charles V wasn't exactly known for his hygiene. He was a warrior king, more comfortable on the battlefield than in a bathtub. He saw personal grooming as a sign of weakness, a distraction from the serious business of war and conquest. He probably thought soap was for, like, philosophers and poets and other people who didn't spend their days covered in mud and gunpowder. Bathing is for the weak.
So, Charles is off fighting the Great Northern War, which, as you might have guessed from the name, was a pretty big deal.
We're talking years of battles, sieges, marches, and countermarches all across Northern Europe. Not exactly the most hygienic of environments, even if you're not a king who thinks bathing is for the weak. As the war drags on, Charles's hygiene, or lack thereof, becomes legendary. He rarely changes his clothes, which, to be fair, were probably pretty ripe to begin with. He seems to have viewed bathing as some sort of elaborate enemy plot to sap his strength. And worst of all, he develops a particular attachment to a heavy, woolen coat. This coat, my friends, becomes legendary and not in a good way. It's described by those unfortunate enough to be near it as stiff with dirt, grime, and, you guessed it, lice. We're talking a whole ecosystem of lice living their best lives in the warm, woolly folds of this regal garment.
Now, you might be thinking, okay, a lousy coat is pretty gross, but how does that kill a king? Well, here's where things take a turn for the tragicomically ironic. You see, those lice weren't just content with feasting on the king's blood. They were also carrying a nasty little disease called typhus. Typhus, for those of you lucky enough to have never encountered it, is a fever-inducing, headache-causing, muscle-aching, potentially fatal disease spread by, you guessed it, lice. And it's not exactly a quick and painless way to go. We're talking weeks of misery, delirium, and suffering. So in a cruel twist of fate, King Charles XIV, the warrior king, the man who laughed in the face of danger,
the man who thought bathing was for wimps is brought down by a tiny, blood-sucking parasite and a coat that probably could have walked itself to the laundry pile. The moral of the story? Even kings need to do their laundry, and maybe take a bath every now and then. After all, cleanliness is next to godliness, or at least it might save you from a lousy fate. So remember folks, even the mightiest of kings can be brought low by the tiniest of creatures. Stay clean, stay healthy.